Welcome, everybody, back. It's episode number 5 of the Sammy Guru podcast. My name is Jeff Springer, and with me is my co-host, Tori.
Yeah, how's it going?
Well, everybody, it has been an interesting week for me. I've had a cold, and Samsung has decided to torment me by delaying my Z Fold 6. So I've been working on various things. Tori, how has your week been so far?
So far it's just been kind of relaxing. This is like my last week before I have to start doing work-related things. So I've just been trying to relax and go and see as many movies as possible. So that's been kind of my flow.
You don't have to go back with the students, though, next week, right?
No, just other faculty members as we all just kind of reminisce on our last final hours.
That's good. They do pay you guys, right, for the professional development week, I suppose?
Yes,
okay.
yeah.
That's good. All right. And are you adjuncting any courses at the university?
I'll be adjuncting college algebra and a college algebra prep class. Never taught that before, so we'll see how that goes.
Okay. Is that at the community college?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. No classes at the university.
That's fun. No classes at the university for me as well for the first time in 13 or 14 years that I haven't taught a course at the university in the fall semester. So it's the first time that I've never been to that I haven't been at school since I was about 6 years old. From the time I was 6 till the time I was 38, I've always been headed back to school in the fall, and this is the first semester where I'm not headed back to school. So I'm somewhat excited about that. Did you do anything else this week besides movies? Just mainly see a lot of movies. Did you see Twisters? Has Twisters come out yet?
I think it just came out. I think today. I actually just watched because I had never seen Twisters 1. I love that finished it last night, and I was like, "Oh, this is so good."
It is. It's a really good movie. Bill Paxton, Helen Hunt. I've really thought about going to see it. It's almost an exact remake. It's not like they didn't change it. It's not like an expansion. It's not a sequel. It's just a modern remake where instead of the guy being a weatherman, he's like a social media storm chaser
tornado
or whatever. And so, it's a modern take, but it does seem really good. And it seems like it's getting pretty positive reviews overall. So I may have to go and check that out.
Yeah, I just saw Tom Cruise. I guess he just saw it yesterday and he gave it his 2 thumbs up stamp of approval, so it must be good.
Maybe I'll just have to go and see it. I mean, since I probably can't get a babysitter, I'll probably have to convince Nicole to let me go sneak out and see it by myself while the kids are asleep. Someone has to be there with the kids, so I don't know that she really cares for it. But I thought it was a pretty interesting movie, so I might have to check that out. What about your Galaxy Watch Ultra? Is it out for delivery today? Have you checked?
So I've been checking all morning. It's been in Mesa just about all morning preparing for delivery. But I am highly looking forward to it and hopefully get a review out to you guys soon.
All right. Yeah. So I also have some Samsung stuff out today. My Z Flip 6 is out for delivery. That shipped pretty much along with everybody else's stuff. And I have a pair of Buds 3 Pro in there, and my wife's Watch 7 40 millimeter. So nothing super duper interesting in there, but I guess I'm going to start making some videos on some of that stuff. Technically, that pair of Buds 3 Pro is supposed to be my wife's, but she kind of knows how it goes. Like if something comes early and I got to make content, then it becomes mine, and then she just gets the next pair. So she's okay with that. I have another pair of Buds 3 Pro that's coming with the Fold. None of my Fold order has shipped. Apparently, I don't know what's delayed. I'm assuming it's my Z Fold 6 1 terabyte white, because the white is supposed to be in short supply. And also, of course, the 1 terabyte's always in short supply as well. I probably should have been smart enough to not order that device because I know this. But as we talked about last week, launch morning was a little stressful for me. And so I just went in there and ordered the device I wanted. It turned out to be a not great decision. I also have my Galaxy Ring in there. My Watch Ultra is also in that same shipment. So a lot of the stuff that I really wanted to start working on content for has not even shipped. Now, I'm trying to see if I can acquire a Z Fold 6 locally here and pay cash for it. It's always a little sketchy, though. Yeah. Like Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist. And the one thing I worry about is some people trade in a device for the Samsung trade-in program, and they get the device that they purchased and they sell it like on Facebook Marketplace. But here's the thing, you buy it, and then they don't send in the trade-in, and guess what Samsung does? They blacklist the device. And so then I just spent a bunch of money and I have a brick that I can't resell once my other one comes in, I just lost like $2,000. So I'm on the fence about it. I really want to get some content out to you guys, but I also don't want to get scammed.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of money. I mean, $2,000 is a lot of money just to throw away if that were to happen. Because, there's reputable sellers out there, but usually if you see a deal where it's like super duper cheap, the person is going to do something like that. They're going to not send in their trade-in, and Samsung's going to blacklist the IMEI, and then you won't be able to use it at all.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of other quick hits right here at the beginning about unpacked pre-orders while we're talking about that thing. Remember last week, Tori, I told you the Galaxy Ring had sold out in all the sizes. It turns out the Galaxy Ring's back in stock as of, I believe, about 36 to 48 hours ago. I posted about it over on Twitter, so if you guys do want to go ahead and order your Galaxy Ring, of course, you can still use our link and get the mystery box. Mystery box will be open till the 23rd, so you got a few more days if you want to do that. They're in stock in most sizes. Not all of them are for launch day delivery, so if you order some sizes, you may not get it until like August 7th or so, but a lot of them still have July 24th delivery listed. In addition, here's another very interesting tidbit, which is disappointing for Buds 3 Pro buyers. I know you were really interested in them as well, Tori. Apparently, as of last night, it has come to light, Samsung has issued an official statement that the Buds 3 Pro have some build quality issues in the original pre-order units. And so they are delaying the full rollout of those. If yours didn't already ship, they're not going to sell anymore right now. They've halted sales and pushed back the delivery dates to check the various batches. So I guess people have complained of various build quality issues with the Buds 3 Pro, those who receive them in their pre-order units. And some of them are missing like the extra ear tips for the different sizes and stuff like that. And so if you didn't already order Buds 3 Pro, you're not going to be able to get those for a while. It's particularly in silver. I think it's back ordered all the way till the beginning of September or something.
Oh my
something
goodness.
Crazy. So we'll see what kind of build quality issues exist. Like I said, I will have a pair of Buds 3 Pro because my wife's, which are going to become mine temporarily at least, are coming today with the Flip. So I'll probably go ahead and just fire that up, start doing some Buds 3 Pro content, because that's the actual device that I'm the most interested in terms of using for myself. Maybe not for videos, because I know a lot of you guys out there are interested more in the phones. And of course, I want to bring you the content that you care about, tips and tricks on the phones and all that stuff I normally do. But for my everyday use, I'm more interested in the Buds 3 Pro because it seems like the device that I might end up using quite a bit. So that's what's going on with a lot of the unpack stuff. A lot of people are getting the orders today. We're recording this on the 19th. So by the time I publish this, which will be Monday the 22nd, a lot of you should already have your fold. Mm-hmm. Hopefully I have a fold by then and I didn't get scammed out of...
Fingers crossed.
Hopefully I didn't get scammed out of $2,000 by then, and I have one and I didn't get scammed. And then I'll have some videos up, which would be great. If you get a fold, tag me on Twitter, stuff like that. And hey, if you follow me and you're in Arizona and you want to sell it and I don't have one, hey, hit me up. I sent out a tweet yesterday. I can't believe no one has really taken me up on this yet. Yesterday, I said, if you have a fold and you're in Arizona or you can overnight it to me, I was like, I'll pay $2,500 for it because I want it, and I want it from someone I know that's not going to scam me.
Yeah.
So if someone who's followed me for a long time, I would pay them a little extra money so I could get some content. So mystery boxes also have started packing. I posted a tweet with that showing the update of how our process. Tori can see her because right to his right here in the office, I can tell you, he's got a lot of boxes there.
A lot of boxes.
A lot of boxes. We started putting the cleaning kits. My 4-year-old son, Jonathan, came over to the office earlier this week. He was helping my mother-in-law pack some of the boxes. His job was to put cleaning kits in each of the boxes that she was assembling. And so we paid him a little bit of money. I posted a tweet of him holding up the cleaning kits. He told us after about 20 minutes that he needed some additional money because he was already a little tired of working. And he said the dinosaur that he wants costs a little more. We gave him $20. He's like, it's a little more than $20. Yeah, the dinosaur he wanted from Target is $34.99. So we took care of him. We took care of him, of course. So mystery boxes start shipping on 7/25. If you're in the first shipping wave, you should have got an email from me earlier this week. So check your spam folder if you didn't get it. And the tracking will come from our tracking provider, which is Pirate Ship. The tracking goes automatically out from Pirate Ship. Sometimes their emails also get stuck in people's spam folder. So just make sure you check that out. And I will make sure we also get Tori a mystery box.
Oh, yeah.
So he can maybe tell you guys a little bit about what he gets in his box. We'll just randomize it. We're not going to give Tori any preferential treatment. We're just going to put it into the randomizer.
Yeah,
we'll see what he gets. Since he does have a watch, and we do have watch cases in the boxes.
Ooh.
As well as the cleaning kit. So we'll do that. Maybe Tori can talk about that next week. But shipping for those is coming up very soon. So the main things that I want to talk about this week are, one, and I guess we could just stay right here for the time being, is Z Fold 6 camera samples, and also this video that I made earlier this week, which Tori watched because we were trying to convert it into a written form, and Tori sometimes helps with that for the blog. So eventually there'll be a blog post about it, where I kind of talked about some things that I originally kind of got my frustration out about last week on the podcast, and that is Samsung becoming more and more like Apple. And we talked about that last week. I think, Tori, you agree, right? That Samsung seems to be headed down that path.
Mm-hmm,
seems like they're kind of going towards the Apple side of things. And there's a lot of new leaks information this week that point toward that as well. But after I posted this video, and in the video, basically I talked about the fact that the Z Fold 6 was a very minimal upgrade. A lot of the things they focused on were not hardware related. And instead of adding true upgrades, they used a bunch of buzzwords and focused on only the user experience. And that's pretty much what Apple does. That's their marketing playbook. It's not that I don't like Samsung to focus on the user experience, because I do, obviously. We like that. I think that's great. But they also didn't really do anything in sort of upgrading it. They changed the design a little bit. They changed the camera ring design. And then they did very minimal upgrades to the hardware. For the camera, the only thing that's new is the new 12 megapixel ultra wide camera. And to go along with that, I saw some camera samples of the Z Fold 6 versus Z Fold 5 this week, and they don't really look that much different outside of the ultra wide. So I feel like in a lot of ways, Samsung is trying to focus on the user experience, which is great, but they're also trying to appeal to iOS users more than their own loyal fan base. And I feel like that's going to end up alienating some of the people who really like Samsung. There are other options out there. There's still Google, Pixel phones, OnePlus. And if you're willing to import phones, there's all the Chinese brands, Xiaomi, Honor, etc.
Motorola Razr.
Yeah, Motorola Razr. Motorola's still in the US, right? If you want a flip phone, that's a good point. Motorola is still making phones, and there's still options. So what do you think? You watched my video, you saw the description, you kind of read it over a little bit as you were trying to work on the blog post for it. What do you think about what I said in that video?
No, I think everything was spot on. As I was kind of reading through, and then I was kind of looking through the comments, it seemed like most people were kind of sharing our same frustrations with where Samsung is, focusing more so on the user experience and not really, as I would say, enticing people to want to upgrade, because they're like, hey, I mean, the phone I have basically, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It basically does everything that you just shipped out. And yeah, you're just using these fancy words to make it seem like there's something new, but there really hasn't. So why would I want to upgrade when I don't really need to?
Yeah. And I agree. And Tori doesn't have to agree with me. He can disagree. I think Tori just sees the same thing. And if you go read the comments in that video, I don't really know why YouTube didn't push it out. It didn't get as many views as I thought it should have. I thought it was a pretty insightful video. I don't like to toot my own horn, but I thought it was a pretty good video. That was one of the better videos I've made in terms of opinion-based videos. But I guess, I don't really do that many styles, so maybe YouTube didn't like it. But if you look at the comments, there's like 150 comments on the video with only 2,000 views, which shows you that there was a lot of interest in the video. So that's why I kind of thought it would have done better. And a lot of people did agree that Samsung is basically going in the direction of, let's try to be more like Apple so that we can get some iOS users who might want to come over to Galaxy feeling a little more comfortable, namely iterative upgrades, buzzwords that are about how you can use the phone to take selfies or how you can use it to share on social media. and not as much about how you can do customization or multitasking or productivity or all those things that, Samsung is all about. And as we talked about last week, the commercials that Samsung put together look like they have a bunch of they look like Apple commercials for the new folds. I was watching one last night while I was up late working on some One UI 7.0 stuff, which we'll talk about later in the video. I saw the flip and the fold commercials. They also don't really even talk about any of the new hardware. If you look at the new commercials, it focuses on the Galaxy AI, and it focuses on Google's Circle to Search feature, which isn't even Samsung's thing. That's a Google software feature that Samsung put on the Fold and the Flip and the S25 Ultra in partnership with Google, which is a great feature. I like Circle to Search, but that's not something that's new to the Fold 6. So as Tori said, what are the reasons for people to upgrade? And a lot of people did kind of chime in when I posted this video over on Twitter as well, or X, whatever. The owner of Sam Mobile, actually, Sam Mobile, the biggest Samsung news website out there. A lot of respect for Sam Mobile. He had talked. We had a long kind of discussion / impassioned discussion, as Samsung fans do, and he was basically talking about the fact that it's the direction Samsung needs to go to survive, and this is what they have to do to get more users, etc. And I don't know. I mean, they might get some iOS users, but they already have a very loyal user base. I feel like, as I said in the video, they risk alienating a lot of those people. And some of the decisions they increasingly are making are going to go further and further towards doing that, in my personal opinion, anyway.
Actually, I have a thought on that.
Go ahead.
As I was kind of looking through the comment section, I kind of came across one as more of a devil's advocate. But this person says that more people are switching to Samsung that he kind of sees on a regular basis, and that Samsung is maybe trying to play it safe, and they're maybe trying to win the trust back after the Note 7 and the Fold 1 stumbling out the gates. What are your kind of thoughts on that?
I certainly think it's true to some extent that Samsung burned themselves pretty hard with those. They were PR debacles. I mean, actually, pun intended, yes.
Yeah.
So with the Note 7, they literally burned a lot of people, and it was sad. That's not nice. But, it's been a while. So, but I mean, I feel bad for those people. Thankfully, no one got seriously injured. But
in the process.
In any case, with the first Fold as well, they certainly burned themselves from a PR standpoint, because they released it and there were all these issues with the dust getting stuck in the hinge, and then the screen was bulging, and tech reviewers were having their units break while they were doing reviews.
Especially with that big price tag.
Yeah, it was massive. I mean, it was huge. But the thing is, that's still, in my opinion, I agree that this is certainly a possibility. I think TM Rowe, the current head of Samsung Mobile, really believes that they should play it safe to avoid future debacles like that. And the reason debacles like that come about is definitely because you are trying to push the envelope, right? Mm-hmm. That's how you end up in those debacles, for sure. Because if you push the envelope, you're trying to make the best devices you can, and sometimes you're going to make some mistakes. And unfortunately, a couple of those mistakes were critical mistakes. But I would say it's not necessarily a great idea to stifle innovation at the cost of, going out there and just, doing the minimal upgrade every time. I think we could still do innovation, just maybe not do it as fast as they did before.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if you look at the Fold line, right, it's been stagnant now for 3 years. That's a long time. I don't necessarily, I mean, I was patient, to be honest. People go back and look at last year. Last year with the Fold 5, I said, if I go back and read my tweets from last year, I said, hey, you got to give them another year. We can't have upgrades, big upgrades, every year, or even every 2 years, maybe even anymore. But next year, I bet they'll bring something really great. And what did they do this year? They did nothing. Mm-hmm. So I didn't criticize them last year. I gave them plenty of time to go and show us something. And I do think that 3 years is a long time to wait for, a super cycle upgrade where you get a lot of people. That's what they usually call them, super cycle upgrades, where lots of people upgrade because it's like just such an amazing change that everyone feels like they need to dump their old phone because their old phone isn't really up to par anymore. And that's definitely not happened now. I feel like the Fold 3 was like the last one where, it's like, that's great. They added the S Pen support for the Fold. That was like the last really big thing they did. Everybody wanted that. But that was the last big thing they did. That was really the only thing, at the end of the day. And now we really haven't seen since then. Everyone's like, maybe they'll build the S Pen into the device, like the S line. Maybe they'll get rid of the crease. Haven't done that. Maybe they'll make the cover display, wide enough that you can use it like a regular phone. Maybe they'll make it extremely thin. They haven't done any of that. There is a rumor now that TM Rowe has told the designers at Samsung that next year for the Fold 7 or maybe a Fold 7 Ultra, that the Fold needs to be as thin as the S24 Ultra. If that happened, I'll give Samsung all the credit in the world. Yeah. Hey, if they bring a Fold that's as thin as this phone when folded, and it's almost as wide as the S24 Ultra, I'll be using that as my main phone. I won't be using the S24 Ultra anymore. Assuming they put a decent camera on it, because the camera on the Fold has always been bad. Yeah. And that's the other discussion I was having with the guys over on Twitter, the guys from Sam Mobile. Actually, one of the Sam Mobile writers also chimed in. Sam Mobile was just going in on me. They're like, this new guy starting a Samsung website, Sammy Guru. We're not gonna
test him.
We're not just gonna let him just get away with that. We're gonna have to go ahead and grill this guy, see if he really knows anything about Samsung. So this is the other thing this guy was talking about too. Daniel Scudery, Tech with Benefits. He has a YouTube channel as well. He chimed in on my post about the camera, where I said, all jokes aside, how can anyone tell me with a straight face Z Fold 6 camera is acceptable for a 1900 phone? Yes, they improved the 12 megapixel ultra wide sensor a bit. Something I guess most people don't use much. Otherwise, it's a complete rehash of the Fold 5. And Daniel chimed in and said he has a lot of things to say, things he said in his own reviews in Sam Mobile. The Fold is more than its camera hardware. It's what the form factor enables the cameras to be. So what he's talking about there is he's talking about the fact that the Z Fold and the Flip allow you to do a lot of versatile creative things with your camera. Because, right, you can open it and prop it up to take selfies. You can use it as its own tripod because it can be propped up like a tripod.
They show in the commercials.
And hey, I'm all about that. And I'm not against his point there. He makes a valid point. But then the next thing he says is a little silly. And I told him this in reply. He said, by the same token, the Tab S9 Ultra iPad Pro should have better cameras, but people don't complain because they serve a different purpose.
Yeah.
The Fold series is the same. It serves a different purpose. But here's the thing. I don't put the Tab S9 Ultra or my iPad Pro in my pocket and carry it everywhere with me, right? I don't care if my Tab S9 Ultra and my iPad Pro have a good camera. I don't even care if they have a camera, honestly.
Yeah.
Because my tablet sits on my desk or it sits in my bag. I use it to take notes. I use it to watch videos when I travel. I use it for video calls like FaceTime when I'm traveling to FaceTime my wife and kids. I use it for consuming media, reading books. I don't need a camera on a tablet because it's not with me all the time. But I think you would agree, Tori, that the Fold is much different than either of those tablets.
Oh, yeah, no, agreed. I mean, like, the whole reason, like, you're getting this buzz is because, like, when you're out and about, like people care about the camera quality because they want to be able to capture the moment. People aren't having tablets on them all the time. And so what you want is to have good picture quality on these cell phone devices. And if it's going to be at that price point and you want people to be buying these phones, like, that is an area that they need to focus on.
Right, exactly. So the thing is, at the end of the day, as Tori said, the Fold is supposed to be portable. So comparing the Tab S9 Ultra and the iPad Pro to the Fold is a non-starter to me because they're not the same. You can't just say, oh, well, because Samsung and Apple don't put cameras on their premium tablets that are good, that are very good, they're not flagship quality, and compared to like the iPhone Pro and the the Galaxy S24 Ultra, that's okay because people are not taking that everywhere with them, so they don't need it to take photos.
Yeah.
But if you're using a Fold as your primary phone, and the majority of people who buy a Fold are going to use it as their main device. They're not like me, where they have the luxury of like, oh, well, my S24 Ultra, that's going to be my main device, and then I'll just pull out my Fold when I'm at home sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
that would be great if everybody had that luxury, and I'm glad I do. It's great because I do this for a living. But most people don't have a $2,000 phone they can just use on the couch for fun and then have another phone that they use for when they go out and take pictures. People need that phone to have a great camera because it's in their pocket. It's what they're using for photos every day. So in my opinion, that's not a valid comparison. I'm perfectly okay with not having the best camera on a tablet. In fact, like I said, I don't even have to have a camera on my tablet. If there was no camera on my tablet, no rear camera.
Yeah.
If there's a front, I need a front camera for video calling. But if there was no rear camera on my tablet, I wouldn't care. Like if Apple or Samsung released their flagship tablets and there's no rear camera, I'd be like, I would not criticize them for that. I'd be like, okay. I'd be like, did you cut the price a little bit? Did you do something else to increase it? I would definitely scrutinize them there, because getting rid of that should allow them to do something else. Did you make some improvements? But I wouldn't be frustrated by it. In fact, it might be better because your tablet would then sit flush on the desk. There's a lot of benefits of that. I've actually thought about Apple and Samsung, should they delete the rear camera on tablets? Because who the heck is taking pictures of the rear camera on their tablet? Not very many people. And if you are, people think you're weird. So you shouldn't be doing that. So, but I mean, at the end of the day, no shade to Daniel here. He covers Samsung on YouTube as well, and also writes over at Sam Mobile. Had a great conversation with these guys. It's always great to see different points of view. But in my opinion, this whole thing is kind of a part of a larger picture with the Z Fold 6, all these iterative upgrades, the camera and everything. And the larger picture that this is really a part of is the fact that Samsung is trying to move more towards Apple in everything they do, right? And we're going to talk more about that in just a second. Before we do, let's take a quick break to hear from the sponsor of today's video. Today's episode of the Sammy Guru Podcast is brought to you by our partners at Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile has premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, and right now, for a limited time, they have one of their best deals of all time, where all of their plans are just $15 a month. That means that you can get their amazing unlimited premium wireless plan for 50% off the usual cost. All of Mint Mobile's plans come with unlimited talk and text, nationwide coverage, and mobile hotspot included as well. The great thing about Mint is they are completely online. You don't have to worry about any in-store sort of overhead. They basically give you all of the savings that they can by avoiding those costs. You can also get either an eSIM if you have a phone that supports that, like the Galaxy S25 Ultra or other modern Samsung phones, or if you prefer a physical SIM or need one, they will mail one to you as well. The great thing about Mint is you save a ton of money over the big wireless carriers, and they simplify your billing and also try to make sure that you have the correct plan for you. I've loved using Mint here in the Phoenix, Arizona area for almost the last 2 years. My family and I have switched over fully. We love their service. If you guys are interested in checking them out, go to trymintmobile.com/Springer. The link will also be in the show notes if you'd like to click on it that way and sign up. This is a limited time offer for the 50% off the unlimited plan, where all of their plans are $15 a month. So take advantage today. All right. So now let's talk a little bit about One UI 7.0. So the conversation we just had about Samsung being more like Apple on the hardware side with this Unpacked launch, a lot of things that were Apple style, a lot of advertising that was Apple style. Well, now we have even more evidence of exactly what I said about them trying to be more like Apple. And it comes from official leaks of One UI 7.0. Now, this guy is someone who has leaked One UI stuff many times before. I definitely trust his expertise when it comes to leaking. I don't think he would leak anything that wasn't, in fact, the case. And he said his source briefly tried using One UI 7 multiple times. So he has an inside source, Chun Bai, over on Twitter. And so I'm just going to go through these one at a time. It may take us a while to get through them all. And then we can kind of talk about each one. You can get your thoughts, Tori, on what you think about these, if they are, things that you would like or not. So the first one is the icon pack for the stock icons on One UI is changing. And it's going to be a more rounded icon pack with 3D looking icons, kind of like Mac OS. And they have a cartoonish kind of look, like a more like vibrant look, kind of like the Chinese skins like ColorOS and HyperOS on the Xiaomi phones and Oppo phones. So I don't know. What do you think about changing the stock icons? I don't use the stock icons as my main because I use a custom icon pack. We've talked about this before a few times. And so what do you think, though, about that, about changing the what do you think about changing the stock icon pack?
I think whenever I get a new phone as just like a general consumer, or like going from iteration to iteration, seeing like something different with the icons always just kind of makes me feel like, ooh, like I have like a premium like phone. Like, it's just like the whole picture of it, of just having like just newly redesigned or like more poppy icons just kind of makes me feel like I have like a more premium product than what I'm coming from, or even seeing that, oh, okay, like it just makes me want to use the phone more. It just makes me feel good about the technology that I have, just because, again, like I don't have the luxury of updating every single time I get a phone. So for them to have updates like this kind of makes your current phone kind of feel new, at least to me in the as the consumer.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can agree with that. That's actually one of the reasons why I think a lot of people like custom icon packs too, is because you can change them whenever you want. So like if, like Tori said, if you don't upgrade your phone every year, it's not something, obviously I wouldn't, if I wasn't in this business, I wouldn't upgrade my phone every year either, because as we talked about already many times, either the upgrades are not that big every year.
Yeah.
So like for most people, I don't recommend that you do that. Like if you're an enthusiast, then you can do it. And maybe if I had the money, I shouldn't say I am an enthusiast. I do love phones. That's why I started doing this. If I had the money, I would do it. But if I was just back teaching as a professor, I probably wouldn't have the money. So I wouldn't be upgrading every time. Luckily, since I've been doing YouTube, I've been able to. But if I was just teaching as a professor, I probably wouldn't be able to upgrade my phone every single cycle. I definitely wouldn't be able to have multiple of them. But I think a lot of people like to change their icon packs because it lets you get like a fresh feel to your phone, and you don't have to spend any money, or maybe just spend $2 if it's a premium icon pack, like the ones that 14 Studio creates that I use, the Aries series and Vera. They're like a couple bucks, but you can, throw that on your phone. It looks brand new, gives it a different theme. That's why people like customization in general, like changing your theme, changing your keyboard, changing your icons can make things feel brand new. So I'm willing to give this a shot, but I really don't like the fact that it seems like, and here's the other tidbit. The new gallery app icon, this is the one that really caught my attention, has a white background with a rainbow type flower. And guess which phone and operating system also has a white icon with a rainbow type looking design on top of the white icon for their gallery/photos app? That would be the iPhone. iOS has exactly that. So another example of where Samsung's design team, it seems like this new guy who came, we talked about this before, I forgot his name, so I apologize because I don't have all of this right in front of me while we're recording. The guy came over from Mercedes-Benz. Remember I told you he designed the Galaxy Buds 3 Pro, and he made it look like the Mercedes-Benz headlights, those new LED blade lights.
Yep.
That guy seems to be in love with iOS and Apple for some reason. Because it seems like, because he's supposed to now be part of the product team that's designing One UI 7 and the S25. And we'll take a look at the S25 leaks in a little bit. And as I gave Tori a little preview before the show, the story is not going to change today. So if you guys have been waiting for like, there's some good news and Samsung is going the opposite way, they're going away from Apple and back to the old Samsung. Well, I don't want to disappoint you, but there's more bad news coming later in the show. But this guy seems obsessed with iOS. So I'm not sure how much I like this guy. The blade lights seem really cool, and they're a nice distinguishing feature. But that seems like it was more inspired by what he did at Mercedes versus Apple. But he seems like otherwise he really wants to make all Samsung products closer to their iOS counterparts. Whether that's just to recruit, iOS users, which is my belief because that's what Samsung is always so obsessed with doing. They're really obsessed with like, we got to get more iOS people to convert to Galaxy. I feel like they would do that naturally if they just focused on being their own thing.
Yeah.
Customization.
I think like the customization, innovation, I think that's what like people look at. People who've had iPhones for a very long time, they're like, man, like I want something different.
Exactly.
And I feel like you turn to Samsung.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
But it's the same thing now.
That's what I've been telling people on Twitter as well. Telling these guys that I was talking with, that we were having a discussion. People move from iPhone to Samsung not because they're the same, but because they get sick of what Apple's doing, the same iterative garbage every year.
Year
It's
year.
like, oh, look at the iPhone 16. Here's my iPhone 13. I can't even tell the difference. They look exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
That's 4 models later or 3 models later, and I can't even tell the difference. People don't want that. I've heard from a lot of people. In fact, the place where Nicole goes, and I should say me too. I like to go get a nice pedicure every now and then. I get one once a month.
Man. I love pedicures.
It's good for your feet. You guys out there should take care of your feet. Get a pedicure.
Yes.
I go once a month, and Nicole, my wife, gets her manicure, get her nails done there as well. And the lady who does my pedicure and the guy who does her nails, they both use iOS, and they know that I do Samsung stuff for a living and cover it. The lady who does my pedicure, she is buying my Z Flip 5, switching from iPhone to Samsung because she was tired of their lack of innovation. And Samsung has had something different. They had the flip phone. Mm-hmm. She wanted a foldable. They had something different to offer. So she's moving over. And the guy, Randy, who does my wife's nails, he's also thinking about now she's got the Flip 5 from me, he's thinking about moving from iPhone over to Samsung because they offer more customization, more interesting features. So in my personal opinion, I've never heard someone say, and again, this is all anecdotal evidence, but through all my comments and stuff, I get to see a lot, thousands of people's opinion on this topic when I cover comparisons between the two OSs. I've never seen someone say, oh, wow, Samsung is so much like iOS now. I think I'll just switch over there because it's so familiar. Because why would you do that? If you liked iOS, you're just going to keep your iPhone.
Yes.
You're not going to switch to Samsung and go to One UI. If I like iOS 18, I'll just be like, okay, well, I've been using it for a long time. I like it. Why change it? People are only going to change when they get tired of the same stuff and they want something new. So if Samsung wants to build long-term Galaxy fans, try to appeal to what those people want that they don't like about Apple. That's my personal opinion. More copycat stuff. The quick action on the lock screen, which is the little icon where you can open up like an app, just tap it. You see them on the lock screen here, right? Like you've got the down there at the bottom where you can tap your camera, your flashlight. They've now made it a copycat for iOS. The icon shape is more rounded and fat and less transparent like in iOS. It can be remapped to any action though, unlike on iOS. So at least they're not taking away the actual functional customization. And well, let's do the other ones. Then I'll get to the really big one that has me super angry, because I'm going to talk about that for a minute. More rounded lock screen widgets, which is again more in line with iOS.
Yeah.
They've rounded and fattened up all the widgets, just like the icons. Revamped camera UI. All the previous quick camera settings on the top are moved to the bottom. So they're talking about inside the camera. I'm going to open up my phone really quick here so me and Tori can take a look. Where you have all these quick settings at the top there. Yep. See them? They're all coming down to the bottom, which guess who also does that? Apple.
Yeah. That kind of, because like I let my girlfriend, she uses my phone sometimes and she's an avid iPhone user, but she's always like, man, your phone is just so hard to type on and to like click things and like the placements. And like, like on iPhone, things are just bigger. And so I'm like, okay, I can see that maybe this new current guy is just trying to appeal to them maybe.
Yeah, so Tori is definitely making a valid point here. I'm kind of just railing on Samsung. So we should give them some credit. A lot of these things that they're doing are in line with the original vision for One UI. A lot of you who are avid fans may know, but if you're not a long-term Samsung fan, you might not know. One UI is called One UI because it's supposed to be easy to use one-handed. That's why they call it One UI. So they're moving some things to the bottom instead of the top because of reachability. Yep. And I understand that. Personally, I may not like it because just the aesthetics is going to bother me. And also I'm so familiar with it. I would imagine though, Samsung we've talked about this before. It's a good thing and a bad thing. They will probably take all these changes they make. They'll probably make it so that if you go to some good lock module, you'll be able to change it back to the old way. Because that's what they normally do. Like if they change something, they know they're going to make people angry. So they're like, you could go to this good lock module and turn it back the way it was before. But since not everybody knows about good lock, they're not confusing the average user. And actually, I was thinking about this earlier this week. This is a counterpoint to my suggestion that they build good lock into the operating system, because this is probably why they don't want to do it, because they're like, we don't want to confuse the average user. Mm-hmm. But for the hardcore Samsung fanatic who wants it back the old way,
there you go.
They know where they'll find it because they know about good lock. But the average user will be like, okay, we'll just use whatever you put here in stock. It looks like iOS. Great. We love it. It's fantastic. But the average Samsung, hardcore diehard is going to go to Good Lock and change it back. And I might. But we'll see. I will give the camera stuff a shot. We'll see how it goes. We have one single shortcut will expand to multiple quick camera settings. And guess what also does that? The iPhone. Yeah. And I guess I'm okay with that. I mean, it's just, again, the theme of everything now is basically like the iOS UI, which is what I don't love. Now let's get into some of the things I really hate. Here's the thing I really hate. And this wasn't really copied specifically from the iPhone. I think this was more copied from the Chinese Android skins, HyperOS, ColorOS. The notification panel has now changed to a 2-page panel. No longer will you have notifications and quick settings in the same panel. You'll only have notifications and you'll have to swipe over to the next page to see your quick settings.
What?
This is what you have to do on all the Chinese Android skins, and also what Apple does. They basically they don't even have a page. You actually have to swipe down on the right side to get quick settings on the iPhone, swipe down on the left to get notifications. I don't like this. It's basically a mashup of iOS and Xiaomi's HyperOS approach. You can swipe left to right to quickly change, thankfully, because in iOS where you can't swipe, I hate that. If they'd done that, I would have been really angry. But I'm already pretty angry about this. I don't like this. It seems like this is just a direct lift from HyperOS. Samsung's taking inspiration not only from Apple, but also from these Chinese Android skins, which makes sense because, and here's the thing, for years, Samsung fans, including Sam Mobile, so here's the thing, I respect those guys, but for years, we've all said that we don't like the fact that the Chinese Android manufacturers copy and paste everything from iOS and basically try to be an iOS version of Android. Yeah. And now that's what Samsung is doing too. Mm-hmm. HyperOS is basically as close to iOS as you can get on Android. And now One UI is also going to be very close to iOS on Android. And I'm not a huge fan of that. That's not all the changes he mentioned. Just as I had asked for, and this one I'm actually pretty happy about as long as they don't mess it up, you'll be able to change the placement of each quick setting and then hopefully the size. It's not in the first beta build, he claims, but you'll be able to change it. And this was also built into iOS 18, so I guess there should be no surprise. Mm-hmm. I had mentioned this before. Because it was in iOS 18, they'd probably put it in One UI, and they are, I guess. One UI now has the battery percentage inside of the battery icon. Oh. Not sure how I feel about that. That's also something that's done on the iPhone. Yeah. But it's not something I hate, so I might live with that. I almost guarantee you this particular option, Samsung will give you the ability to remove that and go back to the old in Good Lock. Because they have a module called Quick Star, where you can change everything in your quick settings and stuff like that. So I don't think you have to worry about that. If you don't like it, they'll give you the option to put it back the other way. The search bar inside the app drawer has been moved to the bottom, which again is very similar to what Google does with the Pixel and some of the other OEMs do. So the search bar is now down here.
Well, it does make it easier for one-handed.
Yeah, you're right, Tori. And I said on Twitter last night that I hated this. And mainly it's because it's just the aesthetic reasons. I just like the way it looks better this way. But people were commenting back to me exactly what Tori said. They said, but Jeff, think of the one-handedness. It's called One UI. That's why we need it. For a
reason.
And I'm like, okay, that's fine. As long as you give me the option, either in the One UI home settings or in Good Lock, for me to swap it back, I guess I don't care too much. I'll try it for a little bit. And then the last thing, good news for One UI 6 music player fans. One UI 7 keeps it. All right. One UI 7 keeps it. So what that means is, go back to my bookmark, the really cool, have you seen the new music player in one? You've used it, right? The One UI 6? The one that kind of makes your music look like a little waveform? Yeah. It's really cool. People love that. Mm-hmm. And so they're keeping that and they're going to expand upon that and improve it. And so that's great. Yeah. I'm glad they didn't decide to be like, oh, well, hey, we're going to make everything else like iOS 18. Let's just go with their boring music player they have on the iPhone too, because that would have really made me pretty angry. I mean, everything else is already copied. Let's keep some of the stuff that we innovated that was actually quality. That's a quality feature. let's keep that. I don't see why we need to get rid of that.
I do have a devil's advocate, I guess, as I'm kind of mulling over as you're saying things. Since iPhone or Apple has not really, been innovative in terms of the design of the phone, they've had a long time to work on the user experience and things that I think about, like when I talk to average iPhone users, they love the experience that they have on the iPhones. Could this be something where like Samsung is seeing that, hey, we need to work on the user experience? That's how we're going to get these Apple people over here and just kind of emulate some things that they've already kind of perfected.
It's a great point, Tori. I think I agree with you, and I think a lot of the guys that I was discussing with on Twitter, part of this is the core of their argument that Samsung needs to focus more on the ecosystem and their software, and not as much on big hardware upgrades. But as we said before, I still don't know that the correct approach is to just copy paste everything from Apple and the Chinese OEMs. I do think that they should focus on software maybe over hardware. If they came out and said that, I would not have a huge problem. Like, the thing is, my problem is not that they chose to focus on software, Galaxy AI, and stuff for the Fold launch. Is that they tried to sell the Fold 6 stills. I know they have to because they're a $1 billion company. They got to make money. But they tried to sell it like units. A massive upgrade, and they raised the price $100. Like, if they had kept the price the same and they really hadn't tried to like buzzword the heck out of these things that weren't really hardware changes, I wouldn't care as much. But it seems like they're really trying to be a little deceiving, kind of like Apple does, where it's like,
I do agree with
we
that.
need to get people to buy a new unit every year, even though they don't really need one. I know that they have to move units, but I mean, it seems a little bit more aggressive than I would like. I do think it would be okay if they said, hey, well, we took some years off from really big hardware upgrades because we need to fine tune the software, make sure One UI really lives up to its promise. And I'm not really upset. I was joking on Twitter when I said that I was super furious about the search bar being moved to the bottom or the camera settings. I don't like it because I don't like the way it looks aesthetically in iOS. But I do understand that it's part of the design ethos of One UI. Everything needs to be one-handed. And certainly if people have small hands, my hands are fairly big. They're not massive, but they're fairly big. I don't have a problem reaching stuff on my phone. Your hands are pretty big too.
Same.
So no problems reaching the S25 Ultra or, even on my Fold. I don't have a problem one-handing it. But I understand, like, especially for ladies, if they want to get the big phone, the top model, which has the best camera, it might be a little difficult to reach some things if they're at the top. So I certainly understand that. And of course, we're going to give it, the good old college try when One UI 7 comes out. I'm just giving some initial thoughts on the leaks. I would never condemn something before using it. And if Samsung has a bunch of distinguishing, customization they added on top of some of these things, then, I'll go back and say, hey, well, maybe it's not a direct copy and paste from iOS and from HyperOS. But at least right now, it seems like they're blowing up a lot of the stuff we love in One UI and replacing it with a lot of stuff from these other OSs. And I don't like that initially. So the question is, when will we get to see One UI 7 beta? Well, supposedly, according to some of the leaks, the One UI 7 beta should be coming sometime in mid to late August. Which is later than usual. And of course, I'll be running it on one of my S24 Ultras. And I'll have a full review of the initial beta. So definitely don't recommend any of you download it yourselves because it is not for the faint of heart. The first beta usually has a lot of bugs. It's not something you want to do. You won't be able to run your banking apps. Like Google Pay, Samsung Pay is not going to work. Most of the stuff you use every day is not going to work. So I always run it on a separate S24 Ultra, not my daily driver, because sometimes I've tried and it's just painful because I can't use banking apps and all the stuff I need to do my daily activities because I'm still a person, even though I review phones. So people are like, well, why don't you use it on your daily driver? Well, because I still have to do banking transactions. Like I still have a life. So I can't always run super buggy software on my daily driver. Once it gets stable, I'll run it on my daily driver and tell you what I think. But we'll definitely have that soon. The other thing that I wanted to mention as well is that another thing that bothers me too, I just thought of this before we move on to the second half of the show. Another thing that really bothers me is Samsung is rumored to still release this Galaxy Z Fold 6 Ultra that we talked about. That's almost been confirmed now. 9to5 Google got some more evidence earlier this week that that's going to happen. But guess what? They're only going to release it in 2 markets, Korea and China.
What?
And guess why?
Why?
Because they don't have competition in the US, so they don't have any reason to release a better phone here. So there's really no one that can outsell them in foldables. Google isn't even close. So in China and Korea, though, Vivo, Oppo, all these different companies, Xiaomi, they all sell phones there. So they're losing market share. So they're like, we need to have a phone that's going to wow people and compete with these other foldables. They're losing market share. So that's another thing I don't like. Going along with what I said is Samsung's attitude towards the consumer. They're like, oh, well, if you live in the US, you're just going to use these crappy ones we already released in July.
Yeah, anyway.
You're going to like it because you don't have a choice. The only other choice you have is the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, which is 2, which is coming out next month. And I will have a comparison of that to the Z Fold 6 when it comes out. But it's very interesting that they're only going to sell it in those 2 markets. It seems like only if we have competition are we willing to push the envelope. If we don't have competition, we'll play it safe, like we said earlier, and try to see if we can maximize profits while minimizing the risks that we take. All right, so before we move into the latter half of the show, we got some Q&A, we got the app of the week, and then we're going to talk about the S25 leaks for a second. I want to remind you guys to sign up for the Sammy Guru newsletter. The newsletter will be sent out every week. I send it out on Fridays usually. This week, because I've been sick and I've been trying to get everything going with the mystery boxes, it's going to go out one day late. It's probably going to go out tomorrow morning, which is Saturday. If you subscribe, we send out a lot of cool stuff that's not covered in the podcast or the website. We also round up a lot of the information that is on the website and my videos. So if you miss something, you can get that information. We have exclusive giveaways of app codes, wallpapers from my good friend Vuk Andrick over at 14 Studio. So if you're in the newsletter, you'll be able to get free premium wallpapers, app icon codes, and stuff like that. If you want to subscribe to the newsletter, the link is in the show notes always. And of course, we do appreciate that as well. So as we move on, let's take a quick look at these S25 Ultra renders. Tori saw these before the show. Mm-hmm. And just continuing the theme of today's podcast, these renders look like the iPhone.
Yeah, they do.
So,
especially the bottom.
A couple of people posted these over on Twitter. The original link was by K5. And RJ Tech, who's another tech influencer, he retweeted it, and that's when I saw it. And it says that you've got basically rounded corners like the iPhone. The button design on the right looks exactly the same as the iPhone. The only thing that's still Samsung design from this is you've got the punch hole front, so you don't have, the dynamic island like they have on the iPhone. They got that big cutout at the top. And the camera module looks the same. The S Pen slot is still there, but otherwise, this looks like a titanium gray iPhone 15 Pro.
No, it really does.
I mean, just with the Samsung logo, different cameras. The design language on the outside, the button size, everything looks identical to the iPhone. So if this is really true, and this is very early, so we don't know. These are renders based off of what people have said. If this is true, I would be pretty disappointed. Although, if you look at the poll, RJ said, would you leave your iPhone behind for this? 32% of people who responded said yes. 55% said never. And 12% said maybe. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to think of that. I thought it was an interesting poll because we were talking about, can Apple get iPhone users, can Samsung get iPhone users to switch to Galaxy by making products that are like Apple?
I think, because I've had a few more conversations now with different people who are avid iPhone users. The big thing that they don't really care about the design of the Samsung. The most I think most people who probably have families and a lot of connected people is one. What was it? FaceTime. Yeah. They really want that. And two, which I think Apple is already under trouble about this, if I'm not mistaken, or being sued about it, is the green text messages. Because that's all Apple's doing. But they just make it seem like Samsung is
Yes.
icky because they give off the green messages. But those seem to be the top two things that people are concerned about.
It's all about ecosystem, really. I mean, that's what you always hear from Apple users. They're entrenched in the ecosystem. And you're right about iMessage. The green bubbles aren't going away, but Apple got in trouble for not having RCS. RCS is now coming to the iPhones with iOS 18. Mm-hmm. So in September, when they roll out iOS 18, you'll finally be able to get all those rich text reactions and stuff between iPhone and Android. But they're not making the bubbles blue because they can still control that. They were forced to put RCS in the phone, but they weren't forced to change the color. So that's still going to have a stigma, especially for younger teens and young adults that it already carries, even though all the rich features will be there because it has RCS. They'll still try to find a way to make more and more exclusive iMessage features, of course, so they can try to keep people inside the iOS ecosystem. But, it is what it is. So I find this very interesting because 32% said they would switch. That's over 1,200 people because there's 4,000 votes in this poll. But 55% people said no. So that's 2,200 people who said they would never switch based on this. So the question is, how many loyal Samsung users are you going to really upset by putting this out that you will lose?
Yeah.
Will you replace all of those people with the 32% who said in this poll they would switch? I don't know. I feel like you might lose at least a third of your Samsung users. You might end up breaking even.
Yeah.
So I don't know that the game theory of this is really beneficial or profitable because you're probably going to lose almost the same. In fact, maybe I'll do a poll.
Yeah.
I might do a similar poll. Let's do a little scientific experiment. He's got some results on how many people said they would leave their iPhone. I don't have very many iPhone users, but I'll post the same image and I'll say on Twitter, how many Samsung users would switch to a different Android brand if this is the S25 Ultra? I bet you'll see a decent number of people because a lot of people don't want iPhone copies. They want something that's unique, something that's uniquely Samsung.
Something that's different.
So we'll see. We'll do a little experiment. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'll admit it. I'm unlike some people on the internet who they're not willing to admit when they're wrong. There's a lot of people out there like that. If I say something, because I like to run my mouth a lot about Samsung stuff, if I'm wrong, then I'll come back and say, well, that was a miscalculation. I have an opinion. Everybody has an opinion. And my opinion's been pretty accurate many times, but occasionally it is wrong. So we'll revisit that after I do the poll next week. In fact, I'll also send out the same poll in the newsletter. Since the newsletter is going out next week, tomorrow, we'll have the results and we can talk about the results. The newsletter has about 7,000 active readers, and so we should get a huge amount between Twitter and the newsletter of responses. All right, so that's S25 Ultra. Also, as an aside, the iPhone 16 Pro leaked as well. Let me see if I can find this really quick. This is super funny. Not that we talk about iPhone a lot on here, but we're talking about iteration. Let me see if I can find the iPhone 16 Pro leak. Look at the difference between the iPhone 16 Pro and the iPhone 15 Pro. Let me see if I can find it. You literally can't even tell that the phones are different.
Oh, I feel like that's like every year.
Yeah, the camera model.
Difference
here's it right here.
Oh, yeah, no, it's the same thing.
Look, what is different about the phones?
Nothing.
There's literally nothing. I just don't understand. I mean, I'm sure there's some stuff on the internals. Supposedly, they're going to make the larger 6.9-inch display on the iPhone 16 Pro Max this year. That might be good for me because I use my iPhone a lot for B-roll when I'm shooting video. That's all I use it for the most part because the OS infuriates me, which is why I'm railing so hard against Samsung going towards an iOS. I don't like a lot of the iOS stuff, especially in notification management and stuff like that. That's why I don't use an iPhone. But if they have a bigger screen, I guess that'd be good because I use it as a B-roll camera a lot, and that'll be beneficial for monitoring my video. That's mostly what I use it for.
I feel like that, most of the time between the two versions is really just one has a bigger screen, but they look identical.
Yeah. The Pro Max and the Pro. I mean, that is a good thing I do think that's a good thing. The Pro and the Pro Max or iPhones have a lot more in common than the S24 and the S24 Ultra. Namely, Samsung takes features out of the base model and then forces you to get the bigger one. I do like that Apple doesn't do that. That's one thing. See, Samsung is stealing all the wrong stuff. They should steal that idea from Apple. Why don't we put the actual flagship camera in the smaller phone? Because some people want a smaller phone.
Yeah.
Not me. I like the S24 Ultra size. because I have pretty big hands. But some people want smaller phones. Like my wife, Nicole, she would jump at the opportunity to get a 6.1 inch Galaxy S24 Ultra Mini or whatever you want to call it. Has the same hardware, everything. Maybe not the S Pen because you might not be able to fit it.
Yeah.
But I don't think she minds too much. She doesn't use it. A lot of people would buy that. People don't buy the base model S24 because the camera is not nearly as good. It's way, way behind the camera that is on the S24 Ultra. So maybe Samsung should consider stealing some of the good ideas Apple has and not all the ideas that are going to infuriate their loyal user base. All right, so let's move on to the app of the week. It's time for the app of the week. And today we have a good one. This is one I wanted to bring to people's attention because a lot of people probably don't know that it exists.
I did not know.
That's everyone's gotten used to that.
But I did know I needed to go to the store to get it.
There you go. He knew to go to the Galaxy store. Tori is learning so much about Samsung software. But this is always the point in the show where I'm like, today we're going to talk about the app of the week. And Tori's like, I had no idea this app exists.
No idea.
That's everyone's favorite part of the show. So Samsung Find is the new app from Samsung to find your Samsung devices. Use your Galaxy Smart Tags. If you have tags, you can find your items that have the tags on them. And people. You can find people in your family, your friends, if they share a location with you. So the reason I want to talk about it a little bit is because it got an update about 3 or 4 days ago. I just made a video about it, which is probably going to launch later today when Tori and I get back from lunch, talking a little bit about the new features. And so basically it's got 3 tabs: people, devices, and items. And on the people tab, there's a new feature that now allows you to go in, and when you have a person that's allowed you to view their location, you can also get notifications when they leave or arrive at a certain place. So now, like if you have kids, this would mainly be useful for kids. I mean, I'm not going to be doing this with my wife because I don't need to know where she is all the time. She doesn't care where I am all the time. I feel like if you trust your significant other, probably this is not a feature you need. I mean, not when you're leaving every location. Maybe so they know when you leave work or something. But for kids, this could be an essential feature because if you have kids that are old enough, you could have it on their device when they leave school. You get a notification. That way, if they're not home in a certain amount of time, you can say, "Hey, where's little Timmy? Like, what kind of trouble is Timmy getting into? Because he left school 45 minutes ago and he's supposed to be home in like 15 minutes. It's not looking good for Timmy. Timmy's about to be in a lot of trouble." So this could be a great feature for that. But you can also do it with friends and, family. Like if you don't do it with your significant other. I requested my wife to be able to view my location a long time ago, and she never even accepted it. That's how little she cares about where I am. Yeah. I was like, you can view my location. See, Nicole Joyner hasn't accepted. She's too busy. She's like, I don't care where you are. She's like, just keep doing that work, making some money.
Make that money.
She's like, I don't really care too much what you're doing. She's not too worried about it. And then check this out, Tori. In the device tab, look how many Samsung devices are in my device tab.
Oh, geez.
It keeps scrolling
She's got
down.
3.
I got about
2.
I got about like 25, 30 active Samsung devices in my device tab. And then I have a couple of my items tab because I have 2 Galaxy Smart Tags for my duffel and my backpack, just so I know where those are, my travel duffel and my backpack. What do you think of Samsung Find, Tori? Did you try it out?
I mean, because actually I use through the wearable app, because sometimes I have my buds in and I know I put them in a case, but then I forget where I laid the case like the next day. So I'm having to use it, just to be sure, like, okay, did I leave it at work or did I leave it at home? Like where did I leave my buds? So I didn't know that there was like a separate app that I could get from the store. And I actually really like this because it actually gives me like the exact like location address of where it's at, along with like a picture, and like I can just click on it and it just swipes me over or like swipes me to wherever that particular item is. So I actually really like this.
Yeah, and so let's give Samsung some credit where it's due. This is an app where they stole it from Apple, but they improved it, and it was actually a good decision. So not everything you borrow from Apple is bad. Apple had a Find My app, and this also has the same thing that Apple's has, which is a web portal. Mm-hmm. So if you lose your phone, obviously if you lose your phone, you can't go to the Find My app on your phone because your phone's gone. So you have to go to findmy.samsung.com, and you can log in and locate where your device is. So if it's lost or stolen. So just like Apple's Find My Network. They just rolled this out, fairly recently in the last, I think like last year. It used to be its SmartThings Find, which was inside the SmartThings platform. But then people who don't use SmartThings, which is mainly their smart home platform, if you don't use a lot of smart home stuff, you would never know that you could also use it to find your phone or your watch and stuff. Yeah. So they separated it out into a different app, which I think was smart because not everybody is using different smart home devices, but they might want to be able to check if their phone is stolen, where it is, so that seems like a very useful thing. So I encourage you, if you haven't used Samsung Find yet, go to the Galaxy Store, download it, especially if you use a bunch of Samsung devices. You can locate all of them, your buds, your watch. And like Tori said, your buds and your watch, you might misplace more than your phone. Mm-hmm. You can locate those. You can also locate anything that you put a Galaxy Smart Tag on. And the Galaxy Smart Tags are actually pretty good. They're just as good as AirTags. I really like them. I keep them. I have a bunch of different tags. I have redundant ones, so that way if I lose something, I've got like a tag for everything. I've got like an AirTag, Galaxy Smart Tag, and now I have the new Google Find My tags. A lot of those I got sent as review units, so I didn't buy all of them myself. But that way, if my stuff gets lost, one of those networks is going to help me find it.
One of them.
Yeah. I'll be good to go because I've got a bunch of redundant tags there. Okay, so that's Samsung Find. Definitely encourage you guys to check it out. The last thing here is just a Q&A. And Tori, did you have any questions that you saw in the comments that people wanted us to address? I thought you had one that you said that someone wanted us to address. I think I can find one on Twitter too. I just didn't write any down.
Oh yeah. It was what does it mean to miss the old and bold Samsung?
Oh, the old and bold Samsung. So someone was talking about that. I was talking about the old Samsung that took risks, that had customization, all that good kind of stuff. And I was just using that as a way to refer to the Samsung that cared a lot more about the techie demographic, the users who are really into customizing their phone, modding their phone, etc. So that's what I meant by that. Someone else was also asking about the vertical app drawer. So I'll address that really quickly. Is the vertical app drawer coming back in One UI 7.0? So that guy we were talking about earlier who was talking about the leaks, he did say that there's no indication that the vertical app drawer exists in stock One UI 7, but that doesn't mean it's not coming back because the vertical app drawer used to live in the GoodLock app called Home Up, and that's separate from One UI, the stable build. So I think it will come back, but it's not going to come out right when One UI 7 comes out. It's going to come out when they update the Home Up module. That could be, I'm going to be honest with you, that could be like December of this year. There's a lot of people waiting on the vertical app list. Me too. People actually message me about this a lot because one of my videos that gets a lot of views and just keeps getting a lot of views because obviously people care about this a lot on YouTube is the one I made about the vertical app list. So like every day I get like 2 or 3 either comments on YouTube or tweets where people are like, is that vertical app list coming back? And yeah, so it should be, but I just don't know exactly when. Some other people were asking me again why I don't have reviews of the Z Fold 6. I already talked about this because Samsung doesn't send me review units. And a lot of people are like, how come you don't get review units? I don't know. You have to email Samsung PR.
Yeah.
I can give you the email to their PR company if you want. I've talked to them many times. The fact that I have to do a bunch of crazy work to get review units is ridiculous. Someone said maybe you're too honest to get review units. Maybe they just don't like that I criticize some of their stuff. I mean, if that's the case, then this podcast isn't going to help me get any review units, that's for sure. Because I just talked about how they need to stop being like Apple for like an hour. So they're probably not going to listen to this and be like, oh, we should send Jeff a review unit. So other than that, there's not a lot of other crazy stuff. When we talk about a lot of interesting stuff, there's a lot of stuff going on with Samsung right now. Tab S10 series is still supposed to come out later this year. Someone's asking about that again. Some bad news actually about that I didn't put in the full show notes, but they're going to switch to MediaTek processors for the base model of the Tab S10. I don't think that's a good idea. Maybe we can get into that a little more deeply next week on the show, but the benchmark for that processor doesn't look good. So it looks like Samsung is once again trying to cut corners and make their lower model of the flagship less powerful, just like we talked about with the S24.
Yeah.
Doesn't have as much power as the S24 Ultra. And now the S10 is probably going to have some really cheap MediaTek chip versus the Tab S10 Ultra will have like the Snapdragon 8 Gen 4 because that'll come out probably later this year, or have something even better. So I don't know. I don't know what Samsung's doing there. We gotta get them to change some of these crazy strategies. Anyway, go ahead.
I was thinking of this the other day. I want to ask you: do you have a favorite like nostalgia phone, like regardless of Samsung, like any phone, any?
That's a great question. Yeah. So I have two Android phones that I would say are nostalgic for me for different reasons. That's a good question to talk about. I never really thought about it. The Moto Droid X, that was my first Android phone. A lot of people don't know, I was actually an iPhone user until the iPhone 4. When I was up at, Tori might not even know this, when I was at NAU, I switched. So back in 2010, I switched from an iPhone 4 to the Moto Droid X, and I never looked back. I hated iPhone after that because of all the great things I could do with my Android phone. That was always my daily driver. And so that's really nostalgic because, of course, that was my first time switching. And also, I thought it was just a really cool phone. At the time, it was just, the ads were really cool. It was like Droid.
Yeah. I miss those.
Yeah, those classic Droid ads are some of the best ads, even though it was a Verizon exclusive, which I didn't like. But it was still a great phone. And then the other one has got to be the Galaxy S6. And that's because that was the first phone that I ever reviewed on my YouTube channel. I started my YouTube channel 10 years ago, and the very first Samsung phone that came out that I was able to get and make a bunch of content on was the Galaxy S6. Still some of my most viewed content. I don't know how I got lucky and ended up getting hundreds of thousands of views right out of the gate, but I made a bunch of case videos on the Galaxy S6, and I have a couple different case videos of the Galaxy S6 that have over 1 million views. So I have one on like the Samsung official clear case and one on their bumper, and both of them have over 1 million views. That's actually what got me hooked on YouTube. If I hadn't have done so well at the gate, who knows if I would have continued. A lot of people quit this business before they get started because they don't have much success and they're just frustrated. I got very lucky in that the algorithm somehow pushed some of my stuff quickly, and then I was like, wow, this is fun. I'll keep doing it. And so I was motivated to do it. I like to think that I would have kept doing it anyway, but if not for all my success with the S6, who knows if we would even be doing this podcast today. Maybe, but I don't know.
I didn't know that about you.
Good question. So, I don't know. I think that's pretty much it for this week. Next week, Tori will hopefully have his Watch Ultra. It's supposed to be out for delivery today, but if not, maybe Monday it'll come. He should have had the week to play with it, hopefully, and have some initial thoughts. So we'll definitely have initial thoughts. I'll have initial thoughts on the Z Flip 6, and I guarantee you sometime between now and Monday, I'm going to get a Z Fold 6. I don't know how yet. We're going to figure that out after we eat lunch. I'm going to try to figure that out today. And then I'll also have thoughts on the Buds 3 Pro. So we should have a lot of product, like initial impressions next week. I don't know if we are going to have a full reviews. That'll probably be the following week because that'll be our first week with video is 2 weeks from now. We'll probably do our full reviews of the different devices. But we'll at least give you some initial thoughts next week on what we think about these different things. What we really need on this show, we got to figure it out before next week. We got to come up with an outro, you know?
Yeah, we do.
I want something great because at the end we just say bye and it's kind of awkward. You know, I want something like "Stay classy, Samsung fans." You know, like "Steal from Ron Burgundy" or something.
Yeah,
no. I don't know. We got to think of something that's
such
unique,
a good movie.
you know, that people really love. Anyway, we'll see you guys next week for episode 6. Stay classy, Samsung fans.